And your reason being?
I'll tell you right. So, good morning to everyone.
Morning.
Obviously, you'll want to make sure that there's a heavy deterrent. But what is the reason for it? For someone to wear a police uniform illegally, it is not that he's wearing the police uniform to go in a roadblock to get a girl's phone number, or that he's wearing a police uniform in a girl's shower. This is you're wearing a police uniform to take part in a very violent crime. So the present charge, I think, is under Section 62. It's $30,000 or 3 years imprisonment. But you're wearing the police uniform to take part in a violent crime, and that is what the focus should be on. So, in other words, if you wear a police uniform and you're arrested because you try to kidnap someone, kidnapping should be the non-bailable offense. If you're wearing a police uniform with an illegal firearm to abduct someone or to steal from someone, having access to an illegal firearm is a non-bailable offense. So the wearing of the police uniform is only a byproduct to the bigger picture. So lifting the fine for someone wearing a police uniform is not going to be the deterrent. What should be is the reason for them wearing the uniform. The reason for them wearing the uniform on most occasions is to kidnap someone, to rob someone, to be involved in something in a very serious manner that can infringe the rights of citizens, whether it be kidnapping, rape, armed robbery. Those should be the non-bailable offenses. So that the focus should be on the reason for them wearing.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand.
I understand that. I understand that.
Yeah, so good morning, Gary, and welcome again to Public for Sure.
Morning. And to that topic, what could put an end to it is this. Remember this? There was a reason why I implemented this to all police officers, because we had the concern of police officers, persons impersonating police officers. The badge specially made very difficult, if not impossible, for you to try to imitate. What we told the public is that anytime a police officer comes to you, you need to ask them, let me see your badge, and the badge will have a number, and the number will be linked to your police ID card.
No, I looked at the video where this young man was kidnapped, and I didn't see a badge. I didn't see anything around. I do not have it under their T-shirt.
Yeah,
but I did not see anything. And as you said earlier, when you brought that, when that whole badge issue came out and everybody had to wear it, that it must be visible.
Correct. So Ulla Christopher, who was voted and supported by the UNC and the PNM to be commissioner, she shut that down. This was mandatory. You must wear the badge. And Ulla, in her wisdom, everything that Gary Griffith did, let's shut down. So now you have, thanks to Ulla and Old McDonald, Jacob, they have gone out of their way to make it easier for criminal elements to imitate police officers, just because Gary Griffith implemented the badge. The badge was an avenue to prevent this or minimize.
Well, I did not know it was shut down.
Yeah, it was. That's why it's not mandatory anymore. That's why police officers are not wearing it. It was mandatory that you must have
some wearing it.
Yeah, because they like it, not because they need to. We put it as a standing order. You had to wear it. And it meant that if you confront any citizen, they ask, let me see your badge, similar to what you will see in North America. And the badge must also go with your ID card to have the number. The other aspect pertaining to that, when up to now, the police have not been able to confirm or deny that those were police officers. Reason being is that we had GPS tracking on every police vehicle. Had that continued, similar to the operational command center, the commissioner's command center, and the GPS tracking, the police within 5 minutes could have stated to the public there was no police vehicle at that location at that time, because the GPS tracking will show that there was no police vehicle there. That was removed, so they don't know who's police and who's thief, because they can't pinpoint where the police vehicles are stationed. So you don't know if it was a police vehicle or if it was someone who just got a blue light, purchased it illegally, and utilized it. Had the GPS tracking to monitor every police vehicle remained, the police would have been able in 5 minutes to tell the country that was not a police vehicle.
But in your opinion, in terms of looking at that video, Gary, do you think that those fellas moved like police officers, or it's hard to determine?
Well, it could be hard to determine. I mean, obviously, their tactical movements and stuff showed up more like gangsters or bouncers rather than trained police officers. But not every police officer is highly trained in the art of armed conflict, counter-revolutionary warfare, knowing how to operate, how to hold a weapon, how to move. So they could very well be police officers who have been on suspension for several years. We have 300 of them for the last 10, some of them for 10 years, getting $10,000 a month, costing the taxpayers $50 million per annum. So you can have officers who may have been in administrative work and they never held a firearm for years, so they would not know. Some of them have never gone in a range, so it's hard to. It's not just to appreciate the fact that every police officer is highly trained to understand how to hold a weapon, how to move in a situation for armed conflict. As it is, obviously there was very improper training, but it doesn't mean it does not make them a police officer.
Yeah, but how does the TTPS navigate this problem? Now, in my opinion, this should be one of the number one things that they're working on at this point, that ramped up in terms of priority, because it involves the dependability, the image of the TTPS, people's respect for the safety of a police officer coming to them. It undermines all of that. So in my opinion, it should be priority number one in terms of catching those guys, in terms of reinstilling that sense of confidence, which has been depleted over the years. What's your take in terms of that? Would you agree that that should be a priority in terms of this particular kidnapping, or you don't see it that way?
No, definitely. I mean, when I became commissioner, with public trust and confidence being 14% at the time, 1-4, and the person and he was rewarded. He got a national award for having 14% public trust by the president. The reason for that is because of just that. There were very few rogue elements in the police service, and the commissioner did not see it fit to put systems in place to pinpoint, weed out, and of those rogue elements. And by doing that, one or two bad apples just affected the whole image of the police service. So what is required is to put systems to make them accountable and to measure their performance, so that if at any time you have these few rogue officers, you can pinpoint them, target them, and remove them. Or if people are trying to imitate them, ensure that you could separate police from thief, which goes back to the reason up to now, Earl Christopher and Old MacDonald Jacob can never state why you remove this. Why? Because Gary Griffith implemented it. How petty can you be? This here played a big part towards preventing. So if it is you knew, every citizen knew that unless you have this, I know you're not a police officer. That those individuals come to that person's doorstep. He has his burglar proof. Where's your badge? I'm not seeing your badge. I'm not letting you in. But you see people coming with some polo jerseys marked police. You don't know. And all of these things could have assisted. I'm not saying it would have prevented. But if it is that you know you're a civilian and persons come to your door, they say they are police and they don't have this around them. And then you're saying, I want you to show this badge with this number equivalent to your police ID card. Failure to do that, I'm not letting you in my home. You now have grounds to do so. These are the things that prevented the rogue elements from trying to imitate police officers. And then, as I said, with the GPS tracking on the police vehicles, it ensured that persons could not imitate police officers. So these are the things that can easily be reignited, but because of petty politics, because of senior police officers being intimidated by me being there in the past, they've shut down the badge, removed it. There's also the change of the police uniform. When it is that we realize the police uniform being utilized is similar to what an amalgamated security guard has. You could buy that in Pennywise. It's like an old washout jacket and pants, a dark blue, that anybody could buy. And then you say you're a police officer, you put on a balaclava. We changed the police uniform similar to the NYPD, so you look like a police officer. You can't get wear a old pants and a sweater and then say you're a police officer. So all of these things can easily cause the problem. It will minimize the possibility of persons imitating police officers.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I think the badge issue makes them more professional as a unit, more customer friendly and interactive.
Yeah.
But in circumstances like in that bar, citizens are likely to go. Remember, police officers can be intimidating, and if police officers come in a group with big weapons and say, "Excuse me, we need you to come with us," the likelihood is that citizens are going to go. You don't feel that you have the capacity to say, "Well, show me your badge. I'm not going with you unless you show me a badge." The average citizen is just going to comply, and go along with it because of the circumstance of a group of police officers wearing police. You're going to think it's legit.
Well, you're correct, Rick. Yes or no? Because I'm speaking about the point that the reason why they're wearing the uniform is to allow you to foolishly just walk with them because you perceive them to be police officers. If you don't think that they are police officers, it can't very, because my point is you're in your home. It's burglar proof. and if they turn up there in front of you, you're not going to open the door to let them in. So it gives you now it gives you something now to prevent them from kidnapping you or apprehending you. If it is that you just walk inside here and you're in public with them and they grab you, well, there's nothing that could be done. So there would be possibilities. I do not know in this specific circumstance, but if you're behind your closed door, you're in your gate, and you have dogs, you have burglar proof, and these officers refuse to show this. These officers refuse to show their ID card. It can cause, I want to see your ID, I want to see your badge. These were standard operational procedure to prevent police persons imitating police officers. And if those rogue officers actually were police officers, it allows the citizen now, I know your badge number, I know your number, I'm coming for you and liaising with the PC as soon as you leave. Because we had situations where police officers will abuse citizens and the citizens will go past and they wouldn't even know the name of the police officer because the police will at times tell you, I don't have to give you that. And there's nothing that could be done. This being put around you ensure that you will see the number and you can't escape. Those are the things that would have been provided that caused public trust and confidence to move from 14 to 59%. It's a reason that 3 years later it's moved from 59% to 8%. When you remove the badge, you refuse to implement the uniform that was acquired, you remove the GPS tracking on the vehicles, you remove the online reporting and the police app that will allow citizens to report rogue police officers. All of these things add up and it will cause the public now to lose confidence. And it's just because of a number of rogue elements in the police service. These were the same 7,000 police officers that the public had the highest public trust and confidence in any arm of the public service just a few years ago.
Well, there seems to be a ramping up of kidnapping. At least it seems that way. I remember years ago there was a problem with kidnapping, and I think under SORT, you can correct me if I'm wrong, it went down to virtually zero. And now there seems to be a ramp back up and disturbing need for citizens in terms of the last kidnapping / murder. It was police officers that were arrested concerning this issue. Now you have like a week or 2 weeks later, you have another kidnapping of a businessman and with people in police uniform. How do we navigate this? Because it's a serious problem. It's seriously concerning the citizens on the ground. Because now you're not so sure. If you're not sure if a police officer is really a police officer, you have a problem. You have a huge problem. How do you deal with something like this? And do you consider it a trend or not? Because earlier in the conversation that we were having when Paul was there, Paul had indicated that the minister, Keith Scotland, Senior Counsel, had said he doesn't see any trend. And of course, for some citizens, they're seeing a trend, and the trend is that kidnapping is on the rise. How do you look at it? Do you see it as a trend? And if you had to give advice to the TPS, what would you tell them?
Well, again, this started like 2005 to 2008 even when it formed SAUTT, the Special Anti-Crime Unit of Trinidad and Tobago. And it was the worst we ever had with kidnappings. What the police were doing at the time is their job was to act as the negotiator. They kidnap the person. Okay, well, all right, just wait for the ransom. The person demands, the kidnappers demand the ransom. They negotiate, pay the ransom, and hope that the victim is freed. That is not how we deal with policing. That was poor policing, and that person also got a national award for that as acting commissioner of police. What is required is what we did in 2019 and 2021. It wasn't Gary Griffith, it was a team. And that started, strange enough, and because this interview is not political, this is me dealing with law enforcement. Stuart Young at the time was the Minister of National Security. He played a very big part to assist me in dealing with putting an end to kidnapping, because he was the line minister and he provided the support that I needed to get the support from the FBI, the DEA. The type of technology that is out there is what put an end to kidnapping. That is just one part, I should say. There are a number of other things that we did. The Special Operation Response Team, the intelligence unit assigned to the Special Operation Response Team, the online reporting, the police app, the 482 Gary. There's no such thing as the perfect crime. So we provided avenues for citizens to come forward and pass on information without fear of reprisal to say, listen, there's this very strange, these individuals who have just come next door. We don't know them and they seem to be wearing police uniform. Bam, we got that, it gave us leads. We then also, again, with Minister Young, myself, we worked as a team with the SSA, with the same Roger Best. And through Roger Best, through myself, working 72 hours a day, 72 hours constantly for 3 or 4 days, like the Natalie Polonave kidnapping, for example. what you will see in the SVU TV series, there'll be a wall. We'll start pinpointing numbers. We'll pinpoint locations. We'll pinpoint targets, persons of interest, links, reason for it, and then start linking and linking until we come to the possible perpetrator. That is how we were able to pinpoint persons of interest. And it wasn't by accident that over 15 different kidnappings, we were able to immediately arrest the kidnapper and rescue the victim. Now you're hearing police rescue the victim. The victim escaping is not a rescue. The victim's family paying the ransom is not a rescue. Rescue is when it is we were kicking down doors, intercepting vehicles, opening the trunks, finding rescuing the victim, arresting the kidnapper. We did that on 12 to 15 occasions from Natalie Polnego up. There was a reason for that, as I said, because of the special anti-crime unit. We had to form a unit separate and apart from the police, because on several occasions, certain police officers were part of the kidnapping. So when they were inside, knowing what we were doing and tipping off the kidnappers, hey, Gary, Gary's closing early, you need to move. So you must have a separate unit. The anti-kidnapping squad was a very highly trained unit, unfortunately, based on bad policing. Senior persons who were trained and qualified in anti-kidnapping, they transferred them to other locations, similar to the gender-based violence unit now. You recall in 2021, we had put a virtual end to domestic violence. The persons were properly trained through Mayor Rudy Giuliani's unit and NYPD. And now most of them have been from Clare Guy Island and others. They've now moved out of the gender-based violence unit, and persons in the GBVU now, police officers, are not properly trained. The same thing is happening now with the anti-kidnapping squad. So you need a special unit separate and apart, an intelligence unit separate and apart, and the technology that is out there. So it was not by accident that there were 12 to 15 kidnappings under my watch, and every single one we were to pinpoint the kidnapper, arrest them, and rescue the victim. That is what put an end to kidnapping.
Let's talk about technology, and I don't know how much you can share without compromising anything, but the issue of masks, isn't there technology that can identify those guys in that police uniform because they were wearing masks? Isn't there technology that can approximate what they look like?
Well, you're just answering the question. There's absolutely not a snowball chance in hell I will state the type of technology that is there. All I could say is the technology there is what allowed us to solve 100% of the kidnappings and rescue the victims. The technology is there. The kidnappers could not understand what it is that I was doing that caused us to be able to pinpoint where they are, what they were doing, who they were, who were their assistants, who were supporting them in the police service. And that is what put an end to kidnapping for ransom, because they realized there's something that the police have that is catching us, so let's find another crime. They then tried with home invasion. We changed that to make sure we had GPS on the police vehicles. Police stayed in the area of responsibility. We had a proper 999. So if you dial 999, within less than 5 minutes, you jump the wall. By the time you jump back over, a few moments later, we'll apprehend you. We put an end to extortion. So there's technology that is there. I can't obviously give the details of technology for obvious reasons, but the technology is what put an end to kidnapping just 3 years ago. Why is it?
But if the technology was there and it still is there, I'm assuming, then
it's just not active.
Well, I can't say it's not active. There should be some resolve to all of this trend, or no trend. I don't know, the trend of kidnappings or the high-profile kidnappings that have taken place recently. There should be some sort of inroads being made because the technology exists, as you said.
Richard, if you put a ban and tell police officers you don't have to wear this, just that alone shows the pettiness that we have. We are playing politics with national security. We're playing politics with the lives of citizens. The systems are there. The police badges, the GPS on the vehicles, the special operation response team, the police online reporting, the police app, the technology. All of these things is what puts an end to kidnapping. So, I know sometimes it's unfortunate that people would like me or dislike me based on the politics. So it's for the PNM or UNC till you die. Answer that. Why would you put an end to all of the things that I put in place that put an end to kidnapping? The point being, the systems are there. However, it wasn't just the technology, as I said. Stuart Young, myself, Roger Best, we will spend several hours at the National Operations Center trying to see if we could patch everything together, forming a proper system to target the perpetrators. And we were able to do it. It takes a lot of work. You can't be a lazy commissioner of police. You have to micromanage these situations. You have to be on top of it. But as I said, up to now, 4 days later, the police can't even state if they were legitimate police officers involved in the kidnapping. Why? because initially we had GPS tracking on every police vehicle. Had that remained, it meant that the police could have stated within 10 minutes, we wish to confirm there was no police vehicle at that spot at that time. That was someone imitating police using a vehicle with a blue light that was illegal. They can't say it because they shut down the operation command center, the commissioner's command center, the GPS tracking on the police vehicles. And by doing that, you don't know who's police from thief.
I wanted to get to the point of resources, because the 2025 budget was recently read. I don't know if it's completely passed yet, but 59.7 billion. I think national security got the third highest at 6.1 billion, I believe it was. Of course, the highest allocation went to the Ministry of Health, strangely enough, which was 6.7 billion, followed closely by education, 6.5, 6.7, something a little less. And then, of course, national security. As part of the national security framework that the Minister of Finance identified, he identified certain things. He talked about Coast Guard vessels that will be acquired by 2027, I think it was. Yes. And also 2,000 vehicles, new vehicles for the police service. What's your take on that? Because, of course, you have political aspirations. So you must be looking at budgets and budget statements. And also from a security perspective, do you think those measures, in terms of those 2,000 additional vehicles, the issue of the Coast Guard vessels, do you think good or bad in terms of the resource allocation to the security services? And an additional question I'm tagging on, the Prime Minister, I know CARICOM, had been big on public health, that crime be viewed through the lens of being a public health issue. I don't know if the increased allocation of the Ministry of Health to being 6.7 plus billion and being the number one allocation includes some funding that is kind of channeling, kind of an intersect between the Ministry of National Security with regard to that public health issue. What's your take on all of that?
Well, health, education, and national security for the last few decades have always been the top three ministries with funding. As it pertains to the Ministry of National Security, half of that, or just a little over half of that, is salaries. So when people say, oh my God, he's spending $6 billion per annum on national security, we're getting nothing for it. You have the salaries, so that's the first part. As it pertains to the allocation, yet again, the unfortunate thing is when civilians who have absolutely no training, knowledge, or capability in understanding law enforcement, they come up with these things, and without having experts in the field, it'll be waste of taxpayers' money. The extra Coast Guard vessels, it is ludicrous. I mean, I acquired those 12 Diamond vessels. I acquired it at a cost of $1.2 billion less than the 3 OPVs, and they could have done the exact thing that the OPVs could have done. The OPVs, we were paying 800 million TT for each OPV. When it is as the security advisor, I looked at the cost I was getting the offer from the government of Israel, Colombia, and Korea. We were getting the same OPVs for 400 million TT. So that was basically 1.2 billion TT extra we were going to pay. People don't believe me. When you come off air, type BAE, capital BAE/corruption. You will find 17 countries suing BAE, inclusive of the United Kingdom, for paying kickback to government officials. So as it pertains to the vessels, so we got the number of vessels required, but we never had manpower strength to equate with asset acquisition. So when you have all of the vessels presently in the Coast Guard, if they're all operational now, it will not even, we don't have 20, it can't even 25% could be manned because we don't have manpower strength, but you're purchasing more vessels. It makes no sense. The Coast Guard, they don't need more vessels. What they need is proper maintenance. I heard the ridiculous talk about the Chinese vessel. That Chinese vessel was acquired by someone who had the highest rank in the history of the Defense Force at that time, Admiral. You had the present commanding or then commanding officer of the Coast Guard who became a chief of defense staff. You had legal and naval experts. You had persons who went to China, looked at the vessel, and we realized that vessel that has been in stables for the last 10 years, not used. They said that the government stating that vessel is ineffective. That vessel sailed from China to Trinidad by our own Coast Guard personnel. That's how good that vessel was. That vessel was going to be assigned to the Chinese Navy. that vessel would have been the first time that we will be able to take batches of 150 in the Coast Guard, send them out to sea for 2 weeks and get them to be trained as sailors. To be trained as a sailor now, you stay on the Coast Guard jetty in Stowers and swim 5 laps. That's how you become a sailor, because they don't have the vessels to get you out to sea to train. So to say that the vessel was not good enough. If for 10 years you don't maintain it, you don't put systems to have it out at sea, then you will have problems. So you do not need more vessels. What you need is to increase the Coast Guard manpower strength to equate with asset acquisition. Additionally, you need to have the maintenance of the present vessels to be able to utilize it. But we love to purchase vessels because that's where you could get 3 or 4 times markup. Pertaining to the other things that they have implemented, I think it is, again, rather unfortunate. You need to look at the measures of corruption or mismanagement. A simple example is overtime in the police service, where I was able to pinpoint corruption and reduce it by about $100 million per annum. Reducing that allowed me to implement the police marine branch, the rapid response, the emergency response patrol, GPS tracking on vehicles, tasers, pepper spray, body cameras, things never seen before in the police service without asking Minister Imwood for a cent. And that is what is supposed to be done. Find ways to minimize wastage and utilize the funds now for what the law enforcement agencies would need. That is not what is being done. And you're just pumping money, and you're putting bad money, you're putting good money into bad, and you're not going to get the increase in the quality of service. Nothing was stated as it pertains to customer service training, public relation, put in systems to measure the performance of police officers, make them accountable, the proper utilization of the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force. We have 5,000 of them in Tetron and Stobles waiting for another 1990, 34 years later. We don't dare. There are things that they can do right now. So you can utilize them, but I think the budget showed, yet again, politicians coming up with bright ideas with absolutely no proper thought process.
But they have included the Defense Force recently in terms of joint patrols again. I know certainly in the city, I'm not so sure how widespread it is across the country, but certainly in the city of Port of Spain. So they are utilizing them to some measure in terms of that.
Richard, sorry, they use 100 out of 5,000, and they call that joint patrols. 100 members of the Defense Force are utilized with the IATF, the Interagency Task Force. And the reason I can know is I was there. When we had 150 hoodlums coming down into Port of Spain to destroy Port of Spain during the COVID period, not one member of the Defense Force came out. And no fault of theirs, they wanted to come out, but the politicians refused. So the Defense Force have never left Tetron or Stobles in 34 years, other than 100 to deal with IATF. We don't need that. These officers, these personnel are trained, they are qualified. So when people speak and say that they're only trained to kill, that is not true. I was the first Trinidad and Tobago citizen to return home with a United Nations peacekeeping medal. And because we are also trained to act as an aid to civil power and to support and complement the police service, we have regimental police. So those things, and again, when it is you look at the problem, we have the Air Guard. 500 persons in the Air Guard for the last several years have been in PRQ playing small ball football because they don't have a chicky chunk kite to fly, far less an aircraft or helicopter. So those are the things that you need to put in place, allow them to be able to serve our country.
Yeah, but I am a big fan of certainly of an air guard and air power in disguise. I know people talk about drones and etc. etc. I think there is nothing that beats the immediate response of a helicopter up in the air, following a vehicle and giving real-time information to resources on the ground. That's my opinion, but I'm not an expert. Let's do it a little bit of politics now, because you're, of course, the political leader of the NTA. The general elections is drawing nearer and nearer in 2025. Parties are starting to indicate who their candidates are for certain seats. Of course, you've already indicated that you're going up for St. Joseph. What's the sense? What is the NTA's strategy in this? Because there seems to be a certain amount of tension between yourself and the current opposition leader, and of course, a little bit.
A little bit.
And of course, the PNM doesn't align with anybody. They've always held that position. Is it that the NTA is prepared to go it alone in 2025?
Yeah, it's very strange that question is always asked on the third party, whether it's ONR, NAR, COP, or the NTA. You wouldn't ask the PNM or UNC that same question. It's always, what do we intend to do? It's always, do we intend to go alone or not? I would like for persons to understand.
They have a track record. Yeah? They have a track record.
Exactly. No, I know. I'm agreeing with you. There's a reason for that. The track record has always shown that. But I would like the country to understand that this bridge constituency, we are a political party. We have not been formed to get another party in government. We have not been formed to join another party to help them get in government. We are there because there's that 100 to 150,000. It started, I said, at 81 or 91,000 in 1981 with the ONR. It then went to 127,000 in 1991 with the NAR, of which Kamala Prasad Bisesa was part of. I think she lost her deposit against the UNC in Separio in 1991. So when people criticize the third constituency, especially the UNC, hey, yo, your political leader was in that same third party thing, and I think she lost her deposit. She was in the NAR against the UNC. And that was her right. There's nothing wrong with it. It then went to the COP in 2007 with 147,000 votes. Unfortunately, because of our first past the post rather than proportional representation, that 147,000 may be scattered throughout the country because they were, whether you call us the knife and fork, whether you call us the floating voters, the bridge constituency, call us what you want. The fact is that we may not have the numbers to get 21 seats. But the good thing is what we decide will always dictate the outcome of the election. That is a fact. If those floating voters, there's no third party, most usually turn to the PNM than the UNC, which is why the UNC has never won an election on their own in 34 years in a three-horse race. Never. The only time they've ever won any election on their own was in 2000, and it was not a three-horse race because Basio Pandey embraced that bridge constituency, the Carlos John, the Jerry Yepmings, the Moving Assam, the Ian Gillis, the Kwaitongs, to get that knife and fork bridge constituency persons to say, yeah, there's room for us under Basio Pandey. But there was no third party. As soon as a third party was formed a year later, they got a measly 188 votes in Tunapuna, and it cost the government to move from 1961 to 1818, and they lost government. That is the power of that bridge constituency. So what we do and decide, whether we go alone, whether we form with other parties, that always decides the outcome of an election. Having said that, I saw what happened with the Congress of the People in 2010 to 2015. I have no intention for anything perceived as political domestic violence. It is amazing. You know, it's only in crazy people behavior that you will see something that worked in local government election. You defeat the PNM by 60,000 votes. And then you see that and then decide to just make a U-turn and start to attack the people you work with. That is mad people behavior. But that is their right. If it is that you can't unite your own party, you certainly can't unite a country. If you can't unite other political parties with you, you certainly can't unite a country. It starts from that. Trying to disrespect persons and attack them on a platform every Monday night is definitely not going to lure us. It's definitely not going to cause floating voters to say, yeah, I'm hearing what she's saying, so I'll go and join her. Pardon?
So are you saying that it's an advantage to the PNM in 2025?
Well, usually what we would have seen is a third party, as in 1981, 1991, and 2007, working separate and apart from the UNC or the ULF would cause an increase in the seat allocation for the PNM. It happened in 2007, it became 2615 or 2516 because of that. Seats such as Samoa, Barataria, Shogunas, Pointe-a-Pierre, those seats will be lost because there will be a number of those floating voters in those areas that are really not aligned to the UNC. When it is that there's an alliance, those floating voters will say, look, I am supporting you, whether you're called ONR, NAR, COP, NTA, ABC, or XYZ. You work with another party, I could work with it because I know you are there to represent us. And what they are not going to accept is a political party saying, look, we have 19 seats, we will take all the marginal seats, you go up for the 12 hardest PNM seats, and then we'll get in government. My mother make a fool, I ain't stupid. So if you feel that every day is Good Friday for Gary Griffith and the NTA, it's not going to happen. Have some respect for us. Hiring social media prostitutes to attack us every single day, all you're doing is turning people off more from you because you have somebody now as your pumpek to be attacking the NTA. You feel like that's going to cause people to support you. More people will be turned off. Every time he opens his mouth, I'm not going to call his name, he's not worth it. It causes more people to turn away from any alliance. Until what we are not going to allow is the political domestic violence. You can't be attacking us every single time. You're hiring people to attack us and expect us to come and work with you just before the bell is called. Give us the mutual respect. We can work together, and I can assure you we can have a good government. but we are not going to allow a repeat of what I saw with the Congress of the People from 2010 to 2015. They can take it or leave it.
Well, I know politics always makes strange bedfellows, and sometimes people that you think, oh my God, they will never get together because they are basically enemies now. And then bam, a candle is lit somewhere, and all of a sudden.
Richard, I would like to, sorry for interrupting, but that is such an important point. And this is where I have such a problem with. Because we have a thing about enemies and all of that. I don't see PNM as the enemy. I don't see the UNC as the enemy. I recall when Basil Pandey and Patrick Manning were Prime Minister and opposition leader, they will be in cricket, and you'll see Pandey, Manning, Imbert, Valley, Carlos John, Yet Ming. There was no hatred, there was no animosity. Now we are seeing political leaders deliberately going out of their way to divide their country, to solidify their base. That has to stop. I made a statement recently where I commended Fitzgerald Hines for openly admitting the fact that there's a problem with overtime in the police service. Khadija Amin, I mean, as clueless as she could be, jumps up and says, does this, and sends a message to everybody in the UNC St. Augustine chat. Does this mean that Gary's back in bed with the PNM? So because someone commends somebody, you are so petty and small-minded that you see that as Gary being in bed with the PNM. So your job as a politician is to always attack the other side, discredit the other side. I don't intend to do that. My job getting in government is to unite Trinidad and Tobago. PNM will never be seen as the enemy to me. The PNM is a great party with great people that has done a lot for this country. Yes, they've made many mistakes, as the UNC, as Gary Griffith would have done. No one is perfect. But to demonize political parties, to demonize individuals, every single time you speak is to attack, discredit, and now you hire social media prostitutes to attack people. That is what you see as a good government? I beg to differ. My job is not to demonize and to discredit, whereas others want to destroy. I intend to unite, right? Others want to try to attack. I intend to find positive ways to unite Trinidad and Tobago.
So in terms of 2025, assuming that beds are not made to accompany strange bedfellows, and the NTA goes it alone, or maybe with an alliance with some other smaller parties, is it that you're going to go for the 41 seats, or are you going to concentrate on key seats that you think that if you can win those key seats, because all you need to win is one, basically, to be a broker in terms of the political, that's what Trinidad has become now, because a seat alone can give you a certain amount of power. So is it that you're going to be concentrating on particular seats, or you're going full-fledged for the 41 seats?
Well, what we have seen in that bridge constituency since 1981, that bridge constituency is right across the board in Trinidad and Tobago. You'd have seen it in the Congress of the People. The COP placed second, I think, in 34, 35 of the 41 seats. Every time there was a PNM safe seat, it was the COP, then the UNC. The UNC safe seats would have been UNC, then the COP. Sadly enough, there's no such thing as silver medal in politics in Trinidad and Tobago. But the point being is that I think it will be improper for me as the political leader of that bridge constituency to leave out other constituencies because we may not be able to win it. Because there are so many supporters in that bridge constituency. When the COP got that 147,000, you divide that by 41, you got roughly 3,000 to 4,000 votes in every single seat. And that said a lot. It said so much about that bridge constituency. Basil Pandey did not have the respect to understand the value of that bridge constituency. And because of that, he paid the political price. Kamala Persad-Bissessar understood it in 2010, which is why she embraced Winston Dukaran. My take on it is that Winston Dukaran did not negotiate well. He's an excellent politician, a brilliant statesman, a poor political negotiator. He allowed the UNC to get 21 seats, and with that, UNC said, hey, we are 21, them could rock soon now. And that is what caused the collapse of the People's Partnership. I don't think anyone wants that to happen. So the bigger we expand, the bigger the base will build. So you can't just pinpoint just the marginal seats. So as it is right now, we are looking at candidates throughout the length and breadth of Trinidad and Tobago. We are also working and communicating with other political parties such as COPE, the Congress of the People, and other parties. Remember, our name is an alliance. If there are other parties with the same principles and ideologies of the NTA, we will communicate with them, inclusive of the UNC, inclusive of all other political parties, and we intend to transform Trinidad and Tobago. So it is not about just pinpointing certain seats. Let me quickly add, it will, however, the marginal seats will always be the critical seats. The marginal seats has always been the bulk of those floating voters. be it St. Joseph, Samoa, Barataria, Tunapuna, Lupino, Bonaire, La Joqueta, Talparo, Sangre Grande, San Fernando West. Those are the seats we will definitely be going up for, because once we go there, people will understand that we would dictate the outcome of the election. Whether you like it or not, I'll say it one more time, the UNC has never won a general election on its own in 34 years in a 3-horse race. It never happened under Basio Pandey when he embraced that bridge constituency. It ain't going to happen now. So as much as you're bad talk, Gary Griffith, like me or don't like me, what we do would decide the outcome of the general election.
Well, as we head to closing of this interview, Gary, I want to ask you a question. You know, a lot of times people get very despondent, disillusioned about Trinidad and Tobago for various reasons. Some for them, it's economic opportunity. For some, it's the issue of crime. And of course, there has been certainly an uptick in people migrating out of the country, especially younger families and stuff like that. What do you think are the positive things of Trinidad and Tobago, and the things that people that inspires hope in you personally about Trinidad and Tobago being able to survive the storms that it's currently in?
The people, the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. What has destroyed our country is nothing other than politics. I go back to just 20, 25 years ago. We never had this situation now. Politicians have been so strategic. They have gone out of their way to deliberately divide Trinidad and Tobago to the point that even criminals benefit from it. When it is you look at the things that I just spoke about, that puts an end to kidnapping, home invasion, dealing with making sure you have a fast response. A few moments later, pegging back criminals, the highest reduction in violent and serious crime under my watch as a minister and a commissioner. And you will shut it down and remove it because it's Gary Griffith and it'll make him look good. Politicians, of course, the problem. Politicians go out of their way to divide the country, be it geographical location, ethnic composition, religion, political affiliation. It has to stop. But the people themselves, they don't want that. But they're so caught up in the fact that I am not going to vote for this party because I'm afraid of what they will do, because them thief, them corrupt. We have gone out of our way to destroy Trinidad and Tobago. My style of politics has been totally different. I have no intention to go out of my way to demonize any political party or politician. My job is to try to unite Trinidad and Tobago. I almost say make Trinidad and Tobago great again. I'm not going to say that. I say what I could say is that make Trinidad and Tobago safe again. And the best way to do that is to unite Trinidad and Tobago. We have caused division and of course criminal elements to take control of this country. If we work together as a team and understand the value, the PNM put so many good things in place pre-2010 that I cheated. I piggybacked on it because I saw what Patrick Manning was looking at with the OPVs. That's why I got the diamond vessels. When he had the special anti-crime unit, I cheated and I called it, he called it SWOT, I called it SWOT, just a different spelling. When he had the blimp, I acquired drones, as you spoke about, Richard. The drones will turn night into day, lock down our shores, lock onto a vessel. That is how you secure our borders, not by getting massive vessels that will cost us hundreds of millions. Look at what every politician has done and build on it, not destroy and cut, not try to demonize persons. So my take on Trinidad and Tobago, do not give up hope. Believe that we can unite Trinidad and Tobago. Believe that we can win back our country. I have a nation to defend, and I intend to defend this nation. By hook or crook, I intend to find a way to be in a position, yet again, to unite Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidad and Tobago, I promise you, just believe.
Well, thanks, Gary Griffith. Thanks for having us this morning. We appreciate the conversation.
My pleasure.
All the best. How is Nicole doing?
Not too bad at all. She's going pretty well. She still has Richard Dragobasing's hairstyle, but she looks as beautiful as ever, even with that hairstyle.
She does, doesn't she?
Absolutely
She
good. She does.
All right. Well, health and strength to her, and of course, tell her she's in our prayers for sure.
And may I just quickly add, and again, that shows that is a character of even one political leader. When a political leader could actually be in conflict with me, but have the maturity to contact me, send his regards himself and Sharon on his prayers. That, you see, things like that, it gives the country a degree of hope to understand that people can be human. They can have a heart. Not all political leaders did the same thing. I leave it there.
All right.
All right.
Leave it there. Thank you so much, Gary Griffith, for being with us this morning. All the best.